Hey everybody, Art Burns here, wishing you well this evening. It's a twilight edition of the daily video here. It was quite a busy day today, and so I'm just getting it in the last little wisps of sunlight here. I hope you can see me okay. So I wanted to talk today about another topic that I discuss in my webinar every Sunday. How to tame stress and eliminate reactivity in less than 8 weeks, and that's the name of the webinar. And so what I talk about there is how, what makes the stress happen. A lot of times I mentioned that that the stress is a physical response to a mental or emotional experience. And so I want to explain to you how that mechanism works for a few minutes, okay, while the light permits. So inside your brain, inside all of our brains, inside every mammal on Earth's brain, there's a little node. It's about the size and the shape of an almond. You actually have two of them, about size and shape of an almond, right there in the middle of your brain, called the amygdala. The amygdala is often referred to as the fear center of the brain. I like to look at it as the sentry of the brain. Okay. What the amygdala is doing is it's constantly monitoring all five of your outer senses, and it's constantly so what happens is, like, you get sensory data in through your one of your senses, your eyes, your ears, nose, mouth, your touch. That information goes into the center of your brain to a thing called the thalamus, right, which then diverts it to the different places. Like, so if it's something you're seeing, that's going to be the occipital lobe that's in the back of your brain. If it's something you're hearing, it's going to be the sound center of the brain, the feeling center of the brain, the touch, the taste, the smell centers of the brains, right? They're all different areas that process this information. So your thalamus is kind of relaying all that around, right? Now this happens very quickly. But even more quickly, okay, the thalamus also shoots a little copy of this information to your amygdala, okay? And your amygdala is there paying attention to every single thing that happens, and it's there for one reason and one reason only. It's trying to determine whether what it is that you're seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, hearing, whether it's a threat or it's not a threat. Okay, and when it perceives that it's a threat, what it's going to do is it's going to initiate that stress response, right? It's going to send a signal to the pituitary gland and to the hypothalamus gland, and then to the endocrine system. This is a chain reaction that's going to result in the sympathetic nervous system being initiated, the cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine flowing through your body, your heart rate increases, your blood pressure rises, your respiratory system, increases, and all these systems that aren't involved with survival get shut down. Okay, so that's how the stress response works, right? The problem is, and that's why it's a physical response, right? So like when you hear the screeching of a tire, right, outside of your line of sight, right, your amygdala is picking up on that sound in thousandths of a second and knows that that's something not good. That's why you freeze before you even know what it is, right? Or if if you see something coming out of the corner of your eye, or better yet, out here in Colorado, you're hiking along a trail, you see a little stick on the side of a trail, your amygdala is saying snake. Like, before you can even see what it is, your amygdala is saying that could be a snake, and it's making you stop and freeze, right? Because it's fight, flight, or freeze is really the response of the stress, right? The stress response, that's what it's called, right? So all that's happening to keep you alive, right? But here's the problem, okay? The amygdala is also monitoring every thought you have, every emotion you have, and every sensation in your body. Okay, and this is where things get a little more complicated, because the amygdala, right, doesn't understand the difference between a thought or a sound, or a sight or a sound, or a sight or a thought or an emotion or a touch or a smell, or it doesn't know what the difference of any of this stuff. All it's doing is very, very quickly assessing threat, non-threat. So to your amygdala, right, that thing that you're thinking about. So let's say you're in traffic, right, and you're sitting there and you're running late and you're in a little bit of a traffic jam. You're going to be late for a meeting. You start thinking about what's going to happen if you miss this meeting, or if you're late, right? Like, the client or your boss or whoever, there's going to be ramifications. You start thinking about what those ramifications are, and then, of course, as I said the other day, your mind has a wonderful ability to think to come up with very elaborate stories very, very quickly, and always is going to be thinking about the worst case scenario of those stories, right? That's the negativity bias. We're all wired that way. It's for our survival, very much involved with what I'm talking about here. But the thing is that every time you have that thought, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get in trouble. Oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my job. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to live in my car in 6 months. Oh my gosh, my family's going to leave me. Every time you have one of those thoughts, the amygdala thinks that that is actually happening to you right now. Okay, and that is why the amygdala then kicks off this whole stress response, that as if you were, to experience something that could really hurt you, right? Like walking into a house and smelling gas, right? You freeze. You say something's wrong, right? Before you can even know what's going on, your amygdala is telling you something's wrong. It's doing the same thing with your thoughts, right? And so that's why, again, the best way to kind of, train the amygdala, tame the amygdala, right? To tame the stress in your body, to tame the amygdala, is to practice presence. Right? Because if you're not giving your amygdala those thoughts to worry about, right? If you're not giving it those scenarios that you're playing out in your mind, then it has nothing to worry about, right? And it's very, very well founded that people who do meditation, right? Meditation kind of creates a little space in between your amygdala and your experience, right? So it kind of it tones down and it tames the process of the amygdala, right? Because again, the amygdala is like it's like putting your most nervous and twitchy person in charge of watching the door. It's like everything is going to be like, completely hyper reactive to, and that's just the way it works. And it's there to keep you alive. So it's something to be grateful for that we all have this, right? And in fact, this is the same process, the very process that has allowed us to evolve over hundreds of thousands of years into the dynamic human beings that we are today, right? But at the same time, hundreds of thousands of years ago, we weren't thinking like while we're sitting in traffic and thinking like we might be late for a meeting and what's going to happen as a result of that, right? That reality didn't exist for us. So therefore, that's where the trouble is going to lie with your stress, okay? And that's why the practice is to be present. Okay, really 3 things you want to practice all the time, right? Or to the extent that you can practice these three things all the time, you will avoid stress and you will remain happy. Presence, acceptance, compassion. Okay, stay in the present moment, accept what it is that's happening, and lead yourself with compassion. Always try to be kind to yourself, to others. Just let that lead you. Okay, I'll talk more about that in another video. So thanks for joining me tonight, and thanks for listening. And I hope you enjoyed this tonight's Twilight video. And if you have any questions about this, please don't hesitate to let me know, because this is very important stuff. It's important to understand how this works. So if you have any questions about it, let me know. I'll try to explain it as best I can. I hope I explained it right tonight. But if there's something that's unclear, I would rather try to help you, because it's important to know how this stuff is working. Because in order to, I used to work with a guy who had this great saying: what is measured is mastered, right? So if you understand something, if you understand the process of something, you have a much greater chance of actually, controlling that process. All right, everybody, thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.